Monday, September 13th, 2021. The hour is 5:30, and I will call us to order and ask that we be led in a moment of prayer and recognition for the 20th anniversary of 9/11. Commissioner Cardle?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I was asked to read a little piece my mother wrote after, it was the next meeting after 9/11. And so we've read it several years since then, but they asked that I read it again tonight, so I'll be happy to. This was September 22nd. There are those who tear down and those who build up. There are those who hurt and those that help. There are those who hate and those who seek to soothe. There are those who worship self and those who care for others. The heroes we salute tonight are builders and helpers and soothers, and above all, caring humans who gave their lives in the performance of their duty to their fellow citizens. Let us pay tribute to these brave men and women in ways that are meaningful and lasting. Let us each resolve to do at least one kindness each day so that when we are through waving the flags, we won't be through reaching out to each other in love and understanding and brotherhood. God bless these fallen heroes, and God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cardle. I would like to add just a few moments to have folks reflect. Amen. 2 meetings ago, we were led the Pledge of Allegiance by the voice of Herschel McKinley. And I said then, and I'll say now, Herschel, we would like for you to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is particularly poignant after 9/11 remembrance. Attention, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
When I grow up, I want to be Herschel.
Thank you, sir. Since last Friday, Commission, you have had the access to the agenda. I've received no disapproval. I will move right on into Hear the Public. This is the public's opportunity to address any item that is on tonight's agenda. Later on, there'll be an opportunity to do the same for items that are not on tonight's agenda. So do I hear anyone that wishes to take 3 minutes at the podium for any item that is on tonight's agenda? Mr. Wilt.
Thank you, Mayor Paris. My name is Marshall Wilt. I'm a longtime member of the Airport Board. I'm here to just make a few brief comments about item number 9, which involves annexation. Since I last was before you and spoke, I was hoping to receive some information which would enable to me to be more supportive of the movement to annex the Airport Board. The proposal has changed in terms of the scope of acreage and whatever, but the changes have left me more perplexed as terms of how the proposal will lead to significant economic development. The acreage in the airport proposal now is greatly reduced. It's mostly developed. There's infrastructure in place. Part of the vacant land, we already have thoughts and plans for adding new buildings there. What's left is not very great in acreage. I'm uncertain as to why the proposal doesn't call for annexation of more land down Airport Road that would be contiguous with the airport. And I am more confused now and less able to support annexation than some time ago. Anyway, I'll just end by asking you, requesting you to be very careful in how you move forward. Please do not do anything that would cause any of our present tenants to consider leaving. And please do not do anything that would make it more difficult for us to develop the airport economically so we can serve the local and regional community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Ms. Powell?
Better late than never, they say.
True that.
Hello, I'm Patty Powell, and I'm also a proud member of the Danville County Airport Board. Sorry, Marshall, I missed part of what you just said. Hopefully I won't repeat the same thing, but I do have a few notes. Like so many other boards in this community, we work tirelessly to oversee operations at the airport, facilities, staff, corporate clients, local clients, aviation, for your community and your county. And this work entails everything from dealing with the state to dealing with federal. And we're here tonight just to represent our clients, which are the airport tenants we are here to represent. Today, you all will be voting on the second reading for consideration of annexation. And of that are 4 properties that lie in Boyle County to become part of the city limits of Danville. Of those 4 properties, only 3 will have the ability to actually participate in a vote in the final hearing, of which the Danville-Boyle County Airport Board is not a participant and able to vote. I won't elaborate, but I still find that very amazing and somewhat unfair. However, we'll go on. 2 weeks ago, we were told during this meeting by the city attorney that until the second reading transpires today, that we are not allowed to have go into any kind of dialogue regarding conversation and expectations and considerations for the airport board and clients and tenants. And until that time, we must wait. And so we will wait. However, we did present to the city manager, Mr. Coffey, a documentation and asked for some recording where Mayor Parris would sign off on it for topics of discussion that we would like to have dialogue with our tenants, the commissioners, city manager, and all of you as well. The most important one on that list is future taxation concerns for current tenants and future tenants. As you know, my dad was very active, involved for 49 years. And I know he did a little chart of pluses and minuses that I have in his handwriting regarding annexation. And on that chart, the top 2, and call them pluses and minuses, were regarding taxation. Number 1, occupational tax on employees, such as Aerovac, which is a big employer, and property tax on all aircraft, including anything from property tax, insurance tax, essentially. Both of those concerns are still the same concerns we have today. I don't think the airport is against growth. The airport's been talking about growth for years. This is nothing new to the airport board. I think it's newer to the commissioners, perhaps, than it is to the board. An airport brings growth to a community. There's no doubt about that. But it's how you grow and the methods in which you do that. And there's a right way and there's a wrong way to everything. We all know that. And I'll just end that if tonight it is approved for the second reading, and that we do, in fact, have that opportunity, which we do hope will take place, to have a dialogue and discuss this and invite the tenants to participate, then that is so critical to where we all move forward in this process. And I'll just mention, and I can't help it, but you know, history does repeat itself. I think, Jim, you'll agree with that, Mr. Atkins. And annexation was a topic in 2007 with Junction City. And Mayor Paris, you know very well what I'm talking about. At that time, Junction City made an attempt to annex the airport. And at that time, I have to admit, Mike was an advocate that stood up to oppose any kind of taxation for the airport. And there's an article from 2007, November 28th, in the Advocate Messenger that says, businessman says the taxes not only will drive current private and corporate aircraft owners to other airports, but will also cause industrial prospects to think twice about placing aircraft at the Danville-Boyle County Airport. This is a very important decision. And we just hope that, and ask that you all, you folks as the commissioners and mayor, do your due diligence and allow further conversation for the board, the tenants, and for this area to grow in a manner that will make us all proud. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Powell / DiMartino. Got to give you due, Vince.
That's important.
DiMartino Powell, okay. I'll let you two fight that one out. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 1, which is the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting, that meeting being the August 23rd. Do I hear a motion for acceptance or amendment?
I'll move to approve the minutes of the August 23rd, 2021 meeting as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Cardle, thank you, sir. Any additions, corrections, deletions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 2 is a recommendation to replace a member of the Parking Authority, and it's recommended the appointment of Jack Hendricks to the Parking Board. Chair will entertain a motion to approve that.
I'll move for approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Terry. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Cardle, thank you. Discussion? I reached out to Jack to ask him if he would be willing to serve, and he very much. And most people don't know that Jack is a large contributor and supporter to our local police department as a volunteer. So this suits him very well. Any further comment or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 3 is the introduction of the new Parks and Rec Athletic Supervisor. Mr. Teague, the floor is yours.
How y'all doing this evening? Thanks for having us. Today I would like to present you Stephanie Boyd. She comes from North Point Training Center and was their recreation supervisor there for 7 years.
You gotta be careful how you say that. She's from North Point Training Center. It's not like she did time.
She worked there. She did not.
got
visit. We are glad to have her on staff. We're excited to move in a direction that I think we all are ready to get to. I know that we are thrilled as a Parks and Recreation staff to have Ms. Boyd on our in our employment. So we're thankful for her. She brings a lot of good things to the table. She's very energetic. I think she'll fit right in with the rest of our employees over at Parks and Recreation. I don't know if you all want to grab a minute and ask her some questions, but I'm sure she'd be willing to speak up. So.
Anyone? Welcome.
Thank you.
You need to keep your eye on that guy.
Yes.
So if anything else, we're
No.
I
good. All
have
right, thank you all.
I had a
I
comment.
appreciate
She has a comment. Where's the
Just-
comment?
You know, as you know, we're, as a group, all excited about really investing in Parks and Rec. So we look forward to this new team and moving forward because there's a lot of exciting things happening in Danville County for our kids in the future.
Yes.
So, thanks.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome
Thanks, Ed.
aboard.
He got out of jail, didn't he?
Item 4, I'm sorry, is an audit report for the fiscal year 19 through 20. Mr. DeMoss, timing is everything. Bedtime reading. Thank you, sir.
All right, well, thanks for having me out. I'm here to present the June 30th, 2020 audit. I'm going to go over a few things, and then similar to last year, I did some slides here that'll kind of give you a quick overview of the numbers. So what I'm going to cover first is this letter that's outside the audit report. Should just be in there on the first page, loose. This is kind of our catch-all letter. As I mentioned, June 30th, 2020. We're now in 2021 in September. So we issued the audit report in August, or August 9th, it looks like. So the audit was a little drawn out just due to staff departures. And so we are finished with it. It's been issued, but we did end up with, you'll see on the second page, there were difficulties in getting information with staff departures and had quite a bit more hours in the audit present. It actually ended up closer to 200 additional staff hours beyond normal. So, but glad to be able to present this here to you today. Then I'm going to touch on everything else in here, though. I mean, everybody was very cooperative. It was just kind of difficult this year. And COVID made everything difficult, and then departures make it even more difficult. So in the audit report itself, if you'll flip in a couple pages, you'll see our independent auditors report with our letterhead on it there. This is, I always like to point out, this is the city's financial statements. They're not ours as your auditor. We do help you compile these, but they're the city's, and it's the city's responsibility to present them. Our responsibility as your auditor is to perform tests on these, look for compliance issues, be able to provide to the commissioners an opinion on the financial statements themselves. So that's laid out in this letter here. At the bottom, you'll see our opinion here. we believe the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. It's considered an unmodified audit opinion. It's the best we can give you. So, as I mentioned, I have these slides. The report's about 80 pages now. A lot of that has to do with the accounting standards that related to the pensions. But I want to touch base on, if you'll flip to the back, a couple additional things that we have to report on, starting on page 76. This is our report on compliance over internal control and compliance with, in regards to your federal single audit. We did not have any compliance or internal control findings over those programs. And if you'll look at the previous page, on page 75, this outlines the federal funds that were expended over the course of that fiscal year. The big one is the one that we ended up testing for the payroll related to the COVID funding in the CARES Act. So that was the bulk of the funds there that we were looking at. So clean report there. And then if you'll flip back 2 pages before that to page 73, you'll also see another, again on our letterhead. This is our report on internal control over financial reporting and compliance. So we did not have any compliance findings. However, we did have, and when I say internal control over financial reporting, that's not your day-to-day internal controls. That's keeping up with accounting standards, keeping up with governmental audit or accounting and reporting. So we do have a finding here that we identified as a material weakness. Since there was no finance director, there was really no expertise within the city at that point in time on governmental accounting. So if you'll flip to the last page in the whole report, you'll see this, and we have this. This is a finding that I'd say 90% of cities and local governments have, just because they don't have the expertise on staff typically to keep up with all the accounting standards in preparing the financial statements. Luckily, before the finance director departed, she compiled most everything, so most things were in good order before we started. So, but wrapping everything up, taking responsibility for the financial statements is more what this is related to. So there is a response there. Really, the 2 ways to combat that is to hire somebody with financial reporting experience in governmental accounting, or to hire a consultant. A lot of times, cities will consult out with other CPAs that help adjust the books before year end, before the auditors come in, and help take responsibility for the financial statements. So since that position wasn't around at completion of this audit, we needed to put that in there. But like I said, you'll see it at most cities, just especially the smaller ones. Does anybody have any questions on that? That didn't have anything to do with your day-to-day internal controls, like check signing, deposits, that type of thing. It's more on the financial reporting side.
Any questions?
I'll jump into the numbers here on these slides here. That'll give you a good picture. Since we're over a year beyond, I think it's even more relevant to look at the big picture here. So if you flip to the first slide there, it's the statement of net position. And this is basically your balance sheet. So you'll see your total assets, total liabilities, and then your net position, essentially your equity. You'll see total assets has increased, looking at the last 3 years, has increased 23 million. You have 151 million. This is total assets citywide. On the liability front, those increased 18 million. So your assets are outpacing your liabilities, which is what you're seeing there in your equity. a lot of those liabilities
Pension.
are in the pension on this next slide. So I kept 4 years on this one just so you can see it, because you'll see this is both hazardous and non-hazardous, but the pension portion has doubled. It went from 11 million to 22 million. And it's not a number that we come up with. The pension plan has an audit report, and then the state has a proportionate share report that they also issue that gives us each piece of each participating organization. So we do help put it in the audit report, but this is the number that comes from the state. The city's proportion has not really changed over those 4 years. So you're at about 0.12% on the non-hazardous and about 0.5% of the whole hazardous unfunded liability. So that's just something to consider moving forward as you budget your payroll dollars and what those contribution rates are going to be. The Opeb liability is that's the health insurance for the retirees. They keep it in different pots, just due to actuarial reasons. Anybody have any questions on that? I know it's a big jump there.
Want to ask Earl a quick question? So that last number, CERS, OPEB liability, is that the fireman's pension?
No, that's a separate one, sir.
And to you, sir, I'm going to ask a favor of you. If you'd reach out and grab the numbers for 21 and 22, because I think there's quite a large jump in pension liabilities. And a chart like this, I think, gives all of us the opportunity to look and be ready.
Yeah, and I know they've put out those matching contributions for future years, so we can get that for you all.
If that's not a big problem. Thank you.
Well, the liability, we might not have those figures yet. I think we have 2021, but we won't have 2022 yet, so but we'll get that for you.
Okay, I remember seeing somewhere a couple years ago
Okay,
that was staged out.
yeah, okay. The next page here is going over your revenues for your governmental funds. So in total, in 2018, you had 18.8 million. That increased to 20.1 million in 2020. The big increase over those two, between that you're seeing there, is the intergovernmental fund. So $1.2 million was in the CARES funding. So if you take that out, it's fairly flat on the governmental taxes, licenses, and revenues. On the next page, this outlines the last 3 years on your expenditures on those governmental funds. And the big difference here in the years that I'm seeing is it's really dictated by your capital outlay, what projects you have, you're investing in current assets. So that's that bottom green part there. So you'll see in 2019, you all spent $4.4 million on new asset additions. So that's why 2020 dropped more than anything. Next page are your enterprise funds, your utilities funds, stormwater, parking, garbage, cemetery, museum. So here, again, the revenues are fairly flat. 11.2 million in 2018, 11.5 million in 2020. And then the last slide here, we have your expenses over the last 3 years on those proprietary funds. And these are by fund. The utility fund has the biggest increase. A lot of that's in depreciation. As the plant came on, depreciation increased in 2020 specifically. That was the big increase there. But this should give you a quick picture of how those revenues and expenses are trending over those years.
I find it interesting. I thought with, 2020 being COVIDed and everything else it was, that then there might be a bigger variance, but they seem to be relatively steady.
Right.
Stable.
Well, you only really had, I guess, about a third of the year or a quarter of the year impacted by COVID there. So
Yeah.
it took a little while and especially on those governmental funds, you got that 1.2 million that really helped you all out.
Big time.
Do you
Yep.
foresee will that impact next year, you think? Or-
Time will tell. I
no way to
haven't
know.
seen your all's
Yeah.
revenues here, so I don't know.
If you did, you could
Yeah, I wish I could.
see the future.
Yeah.
Any questions, comments?
Appreciate it. I like the Reader's Digest version you always give us. That's easier than going through
Well,
the whole novel.
There's a lot in there.
I have a question for our city manager and our human resources person who is not with us. Where are we on the search for a finance officer?
We've conducted one round of interviews and done a follow-up on those, and we anticipate continuing to work on that and believe that when we find the right candidate, we'll bring them forward. It's an active process now.
In other words, you haven't found the right candidate yet.
Not yet, no.
Keep looking,
Yes, sir.
quickly.
Yes, sir.
Anything else? Thank you, sir.
Thank you all for having me out.
Yes, sir.
I'll leave you all with these extra reports here too. And I'll get you all that information. I'll email it to Earl and
Sure.
it'll be a set.
No big deal. Thank you, though.
Thank you.
Safe travels.
All right, thanks.
Item 5 is the resolution number 2021-09-13-01. This is with respect to the contract amendment with RFH, whom you just heard from. Mr. Coffey.
Yes, sir. The original contract estimated the audit to cost about $34,500. With the additional 9 to 10 months of work, they have asked for overage in the amount of $9,500, which is reasonable considering both parties. Our summary is that they had more cost than that over what their original contract was, and so that is essentially splitting that overage half with them and half with us. Since their schedule was tough too with COVID, other cities was demanding their time, and as they would come back to us, we were short-staffed at different times as well. Recall, we were closed for some time around Christmas, as an example, and we've had various people quarantined from time to time. So it's a reasonable resolution, and it provides them a little bit of compensation for their extra time that they put in.
Thank you, sir. Do I hear a motion for the resolution?
I'll move to approve Resolution 2021-09-1301 with our RFH contract amendment in the amount of $9,500 as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Holland, thank you, ma'am. Discussion?
Well, I super appreciate the compromise at 50%, whoever worked that out, because that was very good, so thank you.
Anything else? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of the resolution, motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 6 is a guideline recommendation on the DAHB. Mr. Hunter?
Yeah, I'll start this, and then Joni House is here, the city staff member, that probably needs to pick up on this. The Planning Commission conducted kind of just a routine public hearing on behalf of the Danville Architectural Heritage Board. The actual text amendment that's in front of you to the design guidelines, I think, was started with the commission and the staff, went through the DHAB review, then they sent it to the Planning Commission just to have a public hearing, which we did on August 25th with 8 members present. There were no formal comments or opposition to note from our hearing, so we forward a recommendation of approval. But really, the nuts and bolts of what's in there is really, I want to defer to Joni if that's all right, because we just reviewed the hearing, but the technical aspects of that, she probably needs a report on. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Hello, Ms. House.
Good evening, everybody. We've been at this for about 2 years, so we're finally here. The Architectural Heritage Board recommended these changes to the Planning Commission, who you have heard had a public hearing. There were no dissenters or any problem with that. I feel that we have worked out a very good compromise with these public artwork guidelines. Our job as the Architectural Heritage Board is really on how that is applied to the building. So we are out of the design business, as we should be. As far as what a mural looks like, we are more interested in how you're going to put it on your building and if it is going to cause any lasting effect to the architectural structure. So that is what these guidelines are for. You guys have seen these many times. I'm happy to answer any questions. I will say that there is a application by the Art Center in the pipeline that the Architectural Review Board wants to hear on Wednesday. So, and with the new guidelines, we have absolutely no problem, I think, hearing that and passing it. So if you guys have any questions or any comments, I'm happy to answer what I can.
Questions, comments?
I have a question. Since the last time we saw these, have there been any changes?
No, ma'am. Not at all.
And I know we had some discussion about the anti-graffiti treatments, and those are recommended and not required.
Correct.
Good questions. Any further questions or comments?
What, and the thing about the mural permitted for 5 years, but you can reapply?
Oh, absolutely.
So-
What that does is give everyone the opportunity to review and see if there's any kind of issue with it or upkeep. But certainly you can reapply for that.
Okay, thank you.
You go to you guys first?
Correct.
And get a COA?
That's correct.
And then you go get a sign permit?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
From planning is it what the Architectural Heritage Board again will review is how that's actually applied to the building.
Okay.
And making sure that it does no damage or obscures the architectural structure of the building at all. And that really kind of goes with any public art that's there. So, but most of these are for murals. And I know you guys are glad to be rid of me with this.
I was just saying, I hope this makes our process better and easier to navigate.
Well, I really do feel like it will, because we're looking at what we're supposed to be looking at and how, you know, this has been one of the very contentious issues, not just here, but around the country. It's a very new thing, and people are trying to figure out how to deal with it. But from an architectural standpoint, we really want to know how it's going to affect the building. And, you know, the National Trust now says it's only paint, don't faint. So that's kind of how we're looking at it.
Well, now I've seen some cities and some very small cities that have some pretty cool murals, and they advertise that with their, tourism and
absolutely.
on their websites, and you can do a mural walk and have pictures, and
Sure.
you know, it's kind of a fun thing for people to do while they are here. So hopefully this will encourage instead of discourage the murals.
Well, I find too that, you know, a lot of the smaller towns, they're really looking for that opportunity. And certainly the Architectural Heritage Board wants to make sure that we have a very diverse and colorful downtown. We just don't want to hurt any of the architecture. So as long as it's not doing that, we're good.
Thank you for your work on this.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thanks for your 2 years on that.
Well, I have to say COVID interrupted it tremendously. We would have been done a long time ago had not COVID come around, so.
We feel your pain.
I know. So I'm assuming that you guys need to officially adopt these.
That was my next question.
Sure.
Why not? Go ahead.
I'll move for approval of the guidelines as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Terry. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Cardle, further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. We thank you, ma'am.
Happy day. Thank you, guys.
Item 7 is municipal order number 909-13-01-2021. This is a leave policy proposal as it relates to COVID-19. Mr. Boyd, the floor is yours.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Just a little history before I go into the proposal or amendment to the policy is, in December, or in 2020, the Department of Labor had issued a law called the Family First Coronavirus Act, which provided emergency paid leave to employees that were impacted by COVID, whether it was, positive diagnosis, having to quarantine for direct exposure. Well, that leave policy actually expired at the end of December of 2020, on December 31st. So myself and the city manager, we reviewed that policy, and we felt like the city needed to take action to provide an additional benefit to the employees beyond December of 2020. As we all know, this is a pretty fluid situation. We learn more every day. It's been a challenge to, mitigate safety in the workplace, to say the least. I mean, that's just putting it mildly. But anyway, so we adopted the policy and brought it to the commission, and I believe it was in March of this year, and established emergency paid leave. Now, since that time, we know that a lot of things have changed within the climate. And so what we've come back to is we're recommending a proposal revision to that. And basically, we want to keep the emergency paid leave intact as is, meaning it provides emergency pay to employees, which is distinct and separate from their traditional leave of sick and vacation time, meaning if someone tests positive or they have to quarantine due to direct exposure to COVID, or if they're seeking testing, even if they test negative, during that testing window, they're provided emergency pay. And that would be applied to all full-time employees, would be up to 2 weeks of their regular pay, but also part-time employees, permanent part-time employees, as it's different than seasonal, which would be their average over, their average amount of hours they work over a 12-month calendar. But the revision of policy is we're actually requesting that it be revised, that the benefits be provided to fully vaccinated employees. If employees unvaccinated, they wouldn't be eligible for the benefits. And the reason are recommending this change is we feel like that benefit should be awarded to those employees that are taking additional steps to mitigate COVID exposure in the workplace. Now, there are obviously certain stipulations to that, meaning if someone that is unvaccinated and cannot get vaccinated due to a medical accommodations or strongly held religious beliefs, that they would still be eligible for the pay, just like with any of some of our other safety protocols. If they fall under those categories, they would have to make an official accommodation request to be eligible for those benefits. And again, we feel like this is a necessary step to help control and continue to push forward with safety in the workplace. Just the city of Danville, just like with a lot of other employers, we've been faced with it. And it really has impacted us operationally in the last, probably, I would say 3 to 4 weeks. It's been pretty significant to the city as a whole. And it's put a lot of taxation on some of our department heads, as well as some of our employees that are having to pick up overtime for those that have been absent, as well as obviously the additional overtime costs that the city has incurred to maintain essential services. Okay.
Any questions for Mr. Boyd? I have a question for council. I'm assuming council has reviewed this with a fine-tooth comb?
I have.
Excellent. Chair will entertain a motion. The municipal order 0913-01-2021.
Offer
Move for
motion
approval
to,
of municipal order 0913-01-2021.
Commissioner Cardle, thank you. Commissioner Atkins, did I hear a second?
second.
Thank you, sir. We're in discussion. Mr. Boyd, I want to thank you. I know you put in a ton of effort and time to balance this so that it's fair to the employee and fair to the city.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I got a lot of credit goes to the employees in the city. I think it's been a challenge, because I think a lot of businesses had the opportunities to work virtually, remote, and the city of Danville never had that opportunity, obviously, because we're a public entity, and it's put a lot of taxation and stress
Sure.
on our employees, and I think a lot of hats off go to them to be able to keep things operational through these times for the last 2 years, and, I think thanks goes to those folks as well.
Yeah, and to point out, to clarify that and just take that one step further, when we have closed City Hall a couple different times to the public, the city operations don't stop.
Yep.
Police department's still here, water appointments, we're still treating water, still treating wastewater, streets and roads. So it's just fire department, keep that in mind.
Yeah, and those employees, when we are lean on staff, those other employees had to pick up that slack, which I mentioned earlier with those extensive overtime. And we've seen that quite a bit in a lot of departments in recent weeks, which is another, we, again, just kind of reemphasizes why we want to make this change.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, Chair will call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
All right.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Randy.
Item 8 is municipal order number 09-13-02-2021. This is with respect to rental insurance coverage. Our city clerk, Ashley Rader.
Thank you, Mayor. Staff met with Scott Burks with Johnson and Pullman to review our current municipal order for any applicant wanting to use any kind of city space for certain events, and what kind of insurance coverage we require. We do require the certificate of liability, and they do have to list the city of Danville as an additional insured. Our current municipal order has a $1 million per occurrence and a $1 million aggregate. We're asking to change that to a $2 million aggregate based on recommendations from Mr. Burks, and he also suggested adding a waiver of subrogation and hold harmless to our application. So we're just asking that we revise the municipal order to reflect those recommendations.
Do I hear a motion for the order?
I'll move to approve municipal order 09-1302-2021.
Thank you, Commissioner Holland. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Atkins, thank you. We're in discussion if we need any. Seeing none.
Wait. Any indication about what this might cost someone?
This kind of liability coverage is very minimal considering.
Yeah.
Yeah, very standard.
Say that again now?
The limits of that would be very standard.
So a couple $100?
Well,
$100?
I mean, I think the factors in insurance rating are going to be way too complex to throw out numbers
Yeah.
for, but depending on what type of event, the hours, if alcohol is served or not, there are a lot of factors, the number of people employed there. So the setting, the types of activities that will go on there, are there bouncy houses, or are we just talking like a farmer's market? I mean, so there's the types of activity, there's too many variables to quote, but the increase in aggregate limits, which would affect to a small degree the level of the insurance that the event provider would have to have otherwise.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Just want to toss it out so people won't come using our facilities. So.
Any further questions, comments? Seeing none, Chair will call question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 9 is the second reading of ordinance number 1976, which is the intent to annex territories on US 127. Do I hear a motion for the second reading?
Yeah, I'll make a motion for second reading, passage of the second reading of ordinance number 1976, which gives us the intent to start the conversation and the dialogue.
Thank you,
Second.
Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Terry, thank you. We are in discussion.
just get us started here in case somebody else wants to chime in, but I talked to Earl before the meeting, and I've talked to a member of the airport board, and I think it will be incumbent upon us to do it as quickly as possible to get those interested in parties together, the ones that, you know, the people who rent spots there and the hangars and the whoever else occupies the airport for the reasons that have been stated by Ms. Powell and Mr. Wilt. But I think there's some confusion over what we were trying to do, and I think sometimes we seem like a bull in the china shop, whether that's legit or not. It's the reality of what people think, and so I think we have to be extra careful to communicate very well and very often as we go along this process.
Ms. Powell, thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it. And my stance is largely the same today. We have, as a city, we have a desire to support in all phases economic development. That's what this is about. And I'm sure that we will have detailed discussions about that. And I'm confident that it'll become clearer to all involved. So thanks for sharing.
And, Mr. Mayor, she shared some, I guess, Advocate Messenger articles, and she also shared a list of pros and cons that were presented several years ago. Is it appropriate for me to ask for copies of that be shared with the commission?
That would be up to her if she wants to provide the paper copy, but yeah, we'll be happy to copy those and make it available, absolutely.
Yeah. Mr. Dexter, you feel okay with me asking that?
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sure. All right.
So I was actually going to save some of this for commissioner comments, but it goes hand in hand. As everyone may know, we had our economic development symposium a few weeks ago, and there was a specific session about airports, aerospace. I was glad to see Ms. Powell and some other airport board members there.
Mr. Quayle?
Yes, and it was very eye-opening for me, even though I had already seen some of those presentations. I still learned even more, as I do each time I attend something about economic development, especially. So I was hoping that maybe that helped to get the airport board on board a little more. If you haven't watched that, it is posted on our website, correct? If you haven't watched that, I would encourage you to, that being anyone who is listening. The technology that is coming is pretty mind-blowing. And we as a community can get ahead of that and tap into that. And this is about economic development. This has nothing to do with how the airport board operates. This is about economic development and opening a pipeline for the area and for the community. UPS has already invested in the technology of the planes that are coming and the electric engineering that is coming. And I've been saying for years that Danville should be a powerhouse, and we are not. And my takeaways from the Economic Development Symposium, I wrote them down, but my main takeaway is we need to come together and lean into our strengths. So that was number one on my takeaway, was we come together. Number two is tell your story and be specific in telling your story. Number three is you have to think regionally when you think about economic development, and that means that each area leans into the strengths that they have. Number 4, these are in no particular order. Number 4 is take the risk. Number 5 is creativity and outside of the box thinking. And number 6 is relationships are key. So those were my takeaways. And we as a city, through economic development, have a pipeline that county governments just don't have. And we are trying to be a good partner and to lead this community because our geographic location alone should make us a powerhouse. We are not. You know what I realized? We are 40 years behind. And we're getting more behind every day in economic development. I was just in another community today in their medical center. We don't have that. They probably have half of our population. We don't have the facilities that I saw today. We don't have the murals. We don't have the economic development because we've all been tripping over ourselves and arguing amongst ourselves and sitting on our laurels for 30 years. That is the reason that I have had such an urgency about economic development in this community. We are 50 years behind. And we're getting farther behind every day. We have an opportunity through the airport and several other things, but the airport being a key, to jump ahead and come into the year 2021, which is almost over. That is why I have had such an urgency about economic development for the 6 years that I've been sitting in this chair. We are behind, and we should not be. We should be ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I'm ready to call for the question, but I think we got to have the ordinance read first.
That is correct. The question's been called. Madam Clerk?
Am I allowed to talk to?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, if he will rescind his question.
Yes, ma'am. She got a comment, yes.
Yeah, I had a comment. I was patiently waiting. I definitely agree with Mr. Cottle and Ms. Terry. Just, I've been disappointed about the communication at first, and I really appreciate Earl and the airport board and just the massive, working towards taking trips together, educating together. I think that's real important. I'm only interested if it's a win-win situation for the airport. I think it'll definitely take 110% collaboration with the city and the county and the airport board. The airport's current tenants must be a priority, period. And I hope can be incentivized to not only stay but grow. Our airport is probably, I didn't know was one of the best in the state. And it's not because of the city, it's because of the airport board, so thank you. And Stuart Powell's vision and the volunteers and what they've done. So that's what I think, but I definitely have seen a win-win situation. I wasn't here the last meeting, but watched it, and like Denise says, there's so much room for growth, but I'm not for it unless it's a win also for the airport and their board, because you guys have done a fantastic job. I mean, I'm just floored at what we've done in Danville and can do, so that's all.
Well said, ma'am. Any further comments? Now, Commissioner Atkins.
Mayor, and actually, before we take a reading on that, we're required, I want to read this into the record for the city clerk to certify that the proper notices were provided to the landowners within the area proposed to be annexed. So I prepared a certification for her that in her capacity as city clerk, she does hereby certify that a complete list of the property owners in the area of the city of Danville and county have been shown this intention to annex ordinance. were sent a certified copy, and that she has substantially complied with KRS 81A 425, and that notice was sent via first-class mail of this hearing today on the second reading, as well as enclosing a copy of ordinance number 1976. And it's dated today's date, and she will sign it, and has the names and addresses of all property owners within the proposed area to be annexed. It will be a part of the official city record of the meeting today, but I wanted to vocalize it as well. Thank you.
Sir. With that, Commissioner Atkins calls the question, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Madam Clerk?
This is the second reading of ordinance number 1976, an ordinance of the city of Danville, Kentucky pursuant to KRS 81A.420, establishing its intent to annex the unincorporated territory lying adjacent to and contiguous with the present city boundaries, being the area between US 127 South and Ghost Pike to extending to the south past Kentucky 1273 Airport Road, which property is owned by Franklin Floyd Jarvis and Martha Sue Jarvis, husband and wife, Nicholas Adams and Brittany Mills, husband and wife, William D. Spoonamore, unmarried, William L. McCormick, and the Danville County Airport Board, consisting in the whole of 583.663 acres, more or less, and being more accurately described below. Commissioner Cottle?
Yes.
Commissioner Terry?
Yes.
Mayor Paris?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Holland?
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins?
Yes, ma'am.
Item 10 is the first reading of ordinance number 1977. This is with respect to a zone change at 424 and 426 South 4th Street and 433 and 437 South 3rd Street.
I make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 1977 as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Holland. We're in discussion. If there is any.
I just want to say this is sort of a cleanup, because this was a property that was zoned two different things, and it is zoning it all to central business.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, the chair will call the question. Madam Clerk?
This is the first reading of ordinance number 1977, an ordinance changing the zone from HB Highway Business and RM2 two-family residential to CB Central Business for approximately 0.953 acres, more or less, of real property located at 424 South 4th Street, 426 South 4th Street, 433 South 3rd Street, and 437 South 3rd Street in the city of Danville, Kentucky. Commissioner Terry?
Yes.
Mayor Paris?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Holland? Yes. Commissioner Atkins?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Cottle?
Yes, ma'am.
Item 11 is resolution number 2021-09-13-02. This is with respect to encouragement to get the COVID-19 vaccination. Mr. Coffey.
Thank you, Mayor Commissioners. There has been a request, and I guess the more we've considered it, we want to offer the commission the opportunity to promote the vaccine as a health benefit. The resolution essentially just confirms that primarily through the FDA's full authorization of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, it confirms the safety and efficacy, can't say that word, efficacy, good night, of the current COVID-19 vaccines, and therefore the health department, in working with those folks, they have offered us statistics indicating that the vaccinated citizens are much less likely to require hospitalization or die from COVID-19, and therefore we are giving you the opportunity to strongly encourage the citizenry to become vaccinated as soon as possible so as to properly combat COVID-19.
Do you hear a motion for the resolution? Commissioner
Yeah,
Atkins was.
I would strongly offer a motion to approve resolution 2021-09-13-02. as
Mr. Atkins,
presented.
thank you. Mr. Cottle, thank you.
Second.
Did you want to continue, sir? I think I interrupted you.
Well, I just want to state that, we've had, well, let me just read it. You try to stay up to date with stuff, but terrible news today. Kentucky has 6 counties of the top 10 counties with the highest rate of new COVID cases in the entire United States. So citizens out there, please, please, please consider getting yourself vaccinated. And the other statement is that at City Hall, we require a mask when people come inside. We require a mask when they're in confined quarters like this, when they're inside. And we need to make, well, I thank you to the city employees who are setting that great example. As I go in and out here, I see city employees inside the building with their mask on, in their own workspace or even out in the hallways. They're wearing their mask, and that should be recognized for their willingness to do that.
Thank you, sir. Was there a second? Was that Commissioner Cardinal?
Yes, sir.
Any further discussion? Comments?
I guess my other last comment, I just love statistics and epidemiology, and it just really spoke to me. I was late to get vaccinated, but we really want to support our healthcare workers at the hospital. They're struggling. They're really struggling, and this is the one way you could support them. So that's why we're just encouraging vaccination. In August, the CDC came out that unvaccinated individuals are 29 times more likely to be hospitalized. Those type of numbers speak volumes, so just encourage folks to support our hospital workers and one another. That's all.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. City Manager report, Mr. Coffey.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. We would like to go back to something I think Mr. Atkins brought up and to confirm for him that staff is working on the organizing ordinance to establish a standard committee that is the Martin Luther King Day Committee. And we'll hope to have that ready in 2 weeks to follow up and give the commission the full opportunity to consider that. Second thing is, we'd like to point out that the Boyle County Fair, the contract at the fairgrounds has expired. Their president of the fair operations has requested that they have the opportunity to use the facility next summer. When we look at our schedule, based on the timing of everything, we're not sure that the city would have broken ground by then. And so therefore, we do feel like it's safe that if you want to allow them that opportunity next summer to do that. The reason we need to talk about it now is because they have to book and schedule it well in advance. So once we commit to it, you're fairly committed to that process. And so that when we reasonably look at our schedule, because of the summer delays in just getting the consultant active, so we're starting that process this Thursday night at Jenny Rogers, and we encourage everyone to come out. But, you're going to do a 60 to 90 day process of evaluating, then to do a set of plans, even if you wanted to start as quickly as you could, you're looking at another 60, 90 days. And so it's not unreasonable to think that we can get ready before, say, June 1st of next year to actually break ground at that location. We can certainly do other projects sooner than that if that helps the schedule. And so at this time, unless you all have something in opposition, we'll work with the Fair Board to make sure they have the use of the facility next summer. But that would likely be their last event at that location.
And that understanding would be that they abide by the current COVID guidelines at the time.
At the time,
Yeah.
yes. And unless you all desire, unless city attorney thinks, I mean, we weren't going to ask them to have a revised agreement per se. They would be using the space under essentially the terms of the old agreement, but we would want to contemplate that with him. And so we may bring back an agreement, we don't know. But just to get us started as staff, we wanted to make sure you all had the same mindset and Certainly, we can bring back more information if you all want to talk about it at a later time. But other than that, we're going to proceed as if that's the case and see where that goes with us.
That's approximately the third week of June-ish?
Yeah, it's usually early, mid-June, yeah.
Thanks for working that out, Earl. They had a record crowd this year. It was something to see. And so that can't do anything but add to economic development.
They took a lot of money from my daughters. So we got to fix that part.
And, Mr. Coffey, that brings to mind about the fabulous, famous Highway 127 yard sale. We'll probably get approached again about it as we consider what might happen next summer.
Well, we haven't had yard sale spaces there since we bought that property, right?
We did 1 year.
Yeah.
We did not this past year or in 2020. It was COVID year.
COVID, yeah. Just a thought, I'm not encouraging it.
That's really all I have, unless you all have something to talk. I know it's been a long summer. Would suggest it's been a long summer. There's been a lot happen, and as we move into September, hopefully our schedules as a group and as city staff settle down, and we'll get back to a heavier workload, really. I mean, we're all you can tell by the agenda, there's a lot of people doing a lot of things, and so hopefully we can get caught up and move on to new initiatives. I know HR's has got a lot of things they want to work on, and a lot of things are scheduled for the fall, so.
Did you want to talk about the success of the Economic Development Symposium, which I really appreciate you all coordinating?
I felt like it was successful myself, and we've received a lot of positive feedback. We will post the slides as a PDF in the next couple of days. We appreciate IT being quick to get the videos up and ready. And so we will try to have an accompanying set of text to kind of explain each presentation. Like I said, the PDFs of each presentation for that can be accessed and viewed along with the videos if that's so desired. And but we think it was helpful, and it communicated a lot of different things. It challenged us to think regionally. It challenged us to affect our culture towards entrepreneurship, which is important. We know that CenterWorks can play a role in that in the future. And also to think about the next presenter was about incentives and just to contemplate economic development strategies using incentives. And then, of course, Todd Block talked about the airport is your future, the airport your future. And the ideas around aviation are new. He explained to us all that we're entering into the new jet age, and it's related to electric motors, and the use of those and the deployment of those in the aviation industry is profound and is believed to be impactful on our commute and our daily lives in a very big way. Everything from delivery of packages by Amazon to how you get to the ball game.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
We're in commissioner comments. I do want to thank you again for that, and to the commission, we will be planning a road trip to go get more in-depth with the folks that graced us with their presence. So don't have timing on that, but we'll try to get as much lead time as possible. Aviation is huge. As you know, it's something that I'm passionate about and have been for years. Just yesterday, there was on a feed, whether it was just announced or not, years ago, they created an electric motor that was designed to be for light aircraft. Now they have a technology for twice that, not much bigger. 1,400 horsepower is what this electric motor will produce. I mean, that's huge. Most planes don't even have that when you combine the two twin engines. So the sky, pardon the pun, but the sky is the limit here. It really is. How we capture that, yet to be seen, but we've got to capture it. And I'm off my soapbox there, Mr. Terry. Anything else?
Mayor, we skipped here the public.
Oh, we did. I am so sorry. Earl, that's your fault. We are going to hear the public, which is the public's opportunity to address the commission about any item that has not been on tonight's agenda. The floor is yours. Mr. Sutherland, welcome.
Thank you all. Just had one item of public safety. On Wilderness Road, there's a fire hydrant that was hit by a car 11 months ago. And how it didn't burst is beyond me, but it's sitting there leaned over. It doesn't look quite usable, and was wondering if there was plans on that getting fixed.
Josh, you answering that, or is Marshall?
I'm gonna get Marshall to answer that. Fire hydrant on Wilderness Road, Marshall.
Okay, thanks for the comment. We will certainly look into that. I've noticed that actually myself, so.
Yeah, we made numerous calls and
Okay,
they've gone into the black hole.
okay. We'll follow up with that next week and look into getting that taken care of.
Now you have witnesses to you.
Yeah, well, that's good. We'll do it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I will say, let me say this, there is a large number of hydrants that the city has to deal with, and we appreciate people pointing those out to us, just as a matter of record, because we do try to identify those, but I think we have what Marshall stepped out. How many we have now? What is the exact number? Do you know off the top of your head? Like 1,800, I want to say. Yeah, almost 2,000, and you can imagine the geography of those. Some of them are hidden. They do grow up around them from time to time, and so we appreciate folks pointing those out, and we do try to get to them.
And the app
Yeah,
works
and-
really well.
Yeah, the
for
app.
reporting things.
Yes, please use thank you for reminding me, please use the city's ClickFix app. It really, really helps distribute the request immediately to the appropriate staff, and enables you to hear directly back from them, and it better enables supervision of the task from the supervisors with field staff, so we appreciate that.
I was just going to say that fire hydrant was brought up previously, and Chief Simpson is aware of it, so it is on their list already for that road.
And we know that app is new. That's why we're bringing it up again, just to get people to understand that you can create a digital record of your input.
I believe it's just under Danville KY if you go to your app place, whether it's Android or Apple, but in Danville KY, it should come up. There's a picture of City Hall or our emblem. I can't remember exactly. But you will get some sort of response, even if it is.
It looks like the old
Hey.
parking signs.
Yes.
On Main Street. It's kind of this shape.
Yes, the horse head.
Yeah, the horse head emblem.
Yeah.
It's the blue with the, yeah.
Did you say you hadn't heard of
That's
that,
what
Mr.
mine looks
Sutherland? That could be, that's our issue. We need to
Yeah.
That's
get
what
that out there a little bit.
Yeah, we'll do another presentation with IT here at the meeting and bring it back up again.
You can also just go to our website, and there's a link on the front page, and then just click on service request. So if you don't want to go to the trouble of putting the app on your phone, you can just go to the website, and there's a big line there that you can click on it, and it does exactly the same thing.
Mr. Mayor, I was going to announce about a Zoom meeting tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, Lessons from COVID, being sponsored by the Women's Network. Ms. Margaret Garner, I think, is sending out information about it, and if you want the Zoom link, contact the Women's Network. I know it's been sent out to lots of people, but it's
In the paper, just had my text number, and all you have to do is just put your email address, and send you the.
And you have an option of attending at at Intercounty? Is there still an option for people to attend at Intercounty?
No.
All Zoom? Okay.
That was not safe.
Good, good. Okay.
Yeah, to confirm for the record, there is going to be a recording of it, so we would love to have that, and we can post it and share it at least as a news feed item if you want to work with us. And also, to get access to the live feed, what email address do you want to use again? Or if someone wants to observe the live feed? Yeah. Yes, yeah, so how do you want me to communicate with you, and I'll try to get that from you? Mhm. Yeah,
Why
and
don't
if you
I
just
just send it
scribble it
to you,
down, I'll
Earl?
catch it from you.
Earl, I can send it to you.
Oh, okay.
I want a number too, so I can sign up.
Yeah,
All that information is also on our city Facebook page and our city website. So if you go to either one of those places, you can get the information to access that, the cell phone number that she's talking about.
thanks, Bridget, for clarifying that for us.
And the other thing I wanted to bring up is that city manager mentioned the ML King Committee, being a standing committee for the city. Mr. Dexter and I have been communicating. We're going to try to go ahead and schedule a meeting, an unofficial meeting. We'll get the committee off to work and then give them a list of things that they need to be thinking about so that we can have a well-thought-out planned ML King celebration January of 2022. And then thanks for the modeling being back as our attempts to practice safe distancing. Always thankful.
Anyone else from here, the public? Then we will move on to item number 13, which is the payment of the bills. Do I hear a motion to that effect?
I'll move for approval of the bill list as presented in the amount of $1,239,745.68.
Commissioner Terry, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Cardle, thanks. We're in discussion. Seeing none, call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 15 is resolution number 2021-09-13-04. This is a agreement
Mayor.
regarding this.
You skipped 14.
Pardon me?
You skipped item 14.
I did, didn't I? I'm sorry. Resolution number 2021-09-13-03, acceptance letter from the Community Development Block Grant. Marshall? Sorry about that, bud.
No, no problem. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commission. This is in regards to, you probably heard me speak a few times about the CDBG grant in efforts to relieve outstanding debt for some customers. And this can date all the way back to January 21st of 2020. So those listening at home, as this information, there's already some information we put out there, but this is kind of the time, it's kind of go time for us of getting this facilitated through DLG office, through Bluegrass Ad, and also through the city and through the counties, and also local community action organizations too. So just briefly want to touch on a little bit of the history of it. Back in May of this year, Mayor, you signed the funding, what essentially was the funding authorization at that point. Essentially our acceptance to move forward with the CDBG grant. We're at the moment now where we've actually identified the funding amount of $200,000 to work with DLG and Bluegrass Ad to facilitate those funds out to the public. So just for the folks' awareness, the funding is going to be made to provide to DLG, and they will be submitting that information and awarding that funds to the cities and to the counties, which will be administered through Bluegrass Ad, correct? So, and then the community action folks will be administering the applications with the actual customer accounts. So there'll be some verification forms that the customer will have to work through with the local community action folks. Wendy Schaus is our local contact there. So She'll be reaching out to folks, and there'll be some applications here at City Hall as well to facilitate that information. Be some LMI information, and a lot of that stuff will be facilitated through the community action folks. And then we'll be working with them to identify those funds and get the utility providers reimbursed for those delinquencies.
So the customer needs to apply,
Yes, ma'am.
and
And they'll actually be contacted and by the community action office. So, but it's on the customer to be aware that they need to, take the exercise of seeking the application. They will be here, and they'll be through the community action
Okay.
office as well. So-
community action is what they need to go through, basically. Okay.
And that's essentially the trigger mechanism to get the ball rolling, so we can get the funds reimbursed, so. And again, this is through federal funds, it's through the HUD office as well, so there's a lot of environmental clearances and SHPO's office that we have to go through as well, with it being federally funded. So there's a lot of oversight in general in that vicinity too, so. There's a lot of moving parts, and this will probably not be the last signature that we'll need from you, so you'll be hearing from me in the near future, so.
Questions for Mr. Carrier? Thank you, sir.
You need a motion?
Yes.
I'll move for approval of resolution 2021-091303.
Thank you, Commissioner Terry. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Holland, appreciate that. We're in discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Now, resolution number 2021-09-13-04. This is with respect to the City Hall cooling tower treatment. Josh?
Yes, this is a, we'd like to amend our annual agreement with Hershaw Train to include monthly treatment of the water in the cooling tower and closed loop system at City Hall. That'd be an increase of $13,064.
Do you hear a motion for the resolution?
I'll move Resolution 2021-09-13-04 is recommended.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Cottle this time. Discussion? I did notice coming in, I think there's a bearing going out.
Yeah, Rick noticed that today. It's good to have an old car guy on staff that can hear things like that pretty easily. So he pointed that out to me today. They're actually scheduled to come later this week to do some repairs on it. So I called them and they were gonna send somebody out. I don't think they made it out today, but hopefully tomorrow they'll get here to check that bearing. But this is something that I think Earl's been batting around with them for years to include this in the contract. And I think we keep putting it off, and then they have to come in and make repairs, and then we put it off and come make repairs. So if we have this monthly visit, it'll keep us from having any big issues, hopefully, in the future.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 16 is resolution number 2021-09-13-05. This is a proposal and update on our wayfinding sign fee. Again, Mr. Morgan.
Yes, there's kind of two parts to this one. One is the Carmen, the landscape architect firm that initially helped put together the wayfinding signage master plan, has proposed a fee of $3,500 to assist with some new prototypes and and verifying locations, and to start helping with the encroachment permit process with the state. And then also I included in your packet, they did a quick prototype of the sign using our new logo, and just wanted to put that before you all and see if this was enticing enough to change directions off of what was in the original master plan. Do we want to go with that original signage that was selected then, or do we want to move more towards the new logo? So I just wanted I needed to get the fee proposal approved and also get your insight on the signs.
Can we defer this and maybe in next commissioner meeting?
Sure.
Put the old sign.
It's here, right there. Isn't this the old sign and the new sign?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in the packet. That's the two signs.
The one on the left is the old and the one on the right is the new. I like the new myself.
I like the new as well.
tied it all in with our new design and new logo.
Yeah, the
It's much more modern.
The original version, there wasn't a lot of reference, and so he was making an effort to create. We knew from feedback that the arch was a nice preferred shape, but nothing really tied into it. But when you use the new logo, the rectangular sign builds right off of that. Some of the graphics play into it really well. And then with the reduced, the DKY at the top, that's going to play into some of the other smaller signs. So it really forms the sign for you once you have the different variation on the text and the font and the logo. So staff suggests going with the new version.
So the old version, I think what threw me off was the background was white, as I recall, and the blue was kind of a hunter green in the old version.
No, the old version is on page 3 of your handout.
This is the old on the left, and this is the new on the right. Old, new.
I'm talking about the one from like 2 or 3 years ago.
This is the one from 2 or 3 years ago.
I beg to differ, but that's okay.
I think there were some,
There was a lot of variations when they
There were
originally
some,
proposed
yeah.
it. The one that was selected out of those variations was the one on the left.
yeah, there were some different ones, but this is the one that was selected, and frankly, I never liked it either.
I think the new version's got a lot of legs, and so we'll count on Josh to implement it.
This
if
is
you
much
all
better
can see.
and more
Yeah.
clear. I like it a lot
Do I
more.
hear a motion for the resolution?
I'll
So-
move for approval of Resolution 2021-091305 using the new logo incorporated.
Thank you, Commissioner Terry. Is there a second?
I will second that.
Commissioner Cottle, thank you. If there's any further opinions expressed?
I just had a question about the new design, the white boxes across the top.
Yeah, the white boxes are interesting. That's something they added in on me that I didn't have time to see if we could get a version with those not in there. They expressed in the email to me that those would actually be cut out and be see-through. I'm sure, that would probably look really great, but I don't know if we want to invest in that cost of what that would be. I think I'd like to see a cost comparison between the two versions before we would commit to that, because that could be, I would imagine that would be a pretty big increase to the cost of each sign.
Yeah, I like them, but I wouldn't want to pay a whole lot extra for them.
I've had different opinions when I've asked people around City Hall about the white boxes, and they say they're supposed to be a callback to the trim molding on downtown buildings, historic buildings. Is what that's
It's called dental.
Dental, yes. I was trying to think of the word. It looked like teeth is
I
what they
kind of
call
like
it.
the white, though. I don't know how I would feel about them being cut out.
Yeah.
Okay, I like the white. I think it's eye-catching.
Bring some more into it.
Be distracting.
Any further opinions?
Interesting. I just like that you can read it better. I thought, I wasn't a fan of the white boxes, but anything you can read better is a win. That's really what I care about, so.
We're voting to let him start redesigning it, right? Or I
Yes,
call
sir.
for the question.
Oh, okay.
Question's been called. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
We got off
Motion
track.
and opinions carried.
Thank you.
Item 17 is the codes enforcement report. Bridget, you've been very patient. Thank you.
I just wanted to give a shout out to Commissioner Holland and for helping to organize the prayer vigil. And I know she had a lot of other people involved, and Commissioner Atkins was there too. It was very powerful to see people there with the thank you notes and the staff with thank you notes showing back for all that they are doing for us. And also, don't negate the influence you have over those closest to you. I talked to my youngest sister for months about getting the vaccine, and today her and her 3 daughters went and got the vaccine and got their first shot. So keep trying, keep asking people that you care about to get the shot, because you never know when they will actually go and do it. So you have before you the codes report for the month of August. We are a little down on numbers because we got hit with some COVID in there and some staff out for loss of a family member. So we do not have numbers for our business licenses, and we had not updated our liens, so that's why those are not in your packet. We have issued a total of 77 notice of violations and done inspections and so on the for the month, and we have issued 46 parking citations. You can also see Joni's report for the month of, for Architectural Heritage Board activities. She gets a lot done in the time she has. So she has worked outside of meetings with business owners, consulting them on some upcoming things they have asked questions about, and done several site visits. And I will be happy to answer. Oh, and we finished the, we have 2 renewals for alcohol licenses. The larger corporations do their renewals for alcohol licenses the end of August. So we finished all of those for the end of August. The rest of the renewals are in the end of April. So we were able to get those completed this month.
401 East Main Street, I'm not sure there's a sale pending there anymore.
Okay.
You're not sure what?
It says sale pending,
I
but
will-
I don't think that's the case. And I'm not sure about Wilderness Road, also says sale pending.
Okay, I will ask Ian about that.
Is that 401 East Main, was that the one that's still under investigation? You know, we had the gentleman come to us last meeting or meeting before last.
No, that was Mr. Hines.
Yeah,
No,
That's
these
East
first
Main.
2 have the same owner,
okay.
but East Main, I don't believe it's even on the market anymore.
I will follow up on that.
You might want to check both of them while you're at it.
Number 7 on the list, Mayor. Mike,
Thanks, sir.
number 7. Richard, you always have a good report. The neat thing about this was that as soon as I opened it up, the new city logo popped up. It really looked sharp, so. It'll go fancy.
We've all been diligently working, trying to update all of our forms, but it takes a while. Some of them you don't think about until they pop up that it's time to use them, so.
This may or may not necessarily be codes, but I've been asked by a few people to reconsider the ordinance on the cemetery that we just passed. Just passing that along.
Yep.
So noted.
I sent all mine to the cemetery committee that contacted me. I was serious about
Bridget,
it.
thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Item 18 is resolution number 2021-09-13-06. This is a grant application from Norfolk Southern, Chief Doug Simpson.
Mayor, Commissioners, good to see you. We'd like to ask for permission to apply for this Norfolk Southern grant. It's $8,000, a non-matching grant, so it'll just be $8,000 up front. We would use it for training material for our firefighters, and also we'd like to purchase a small drone for the rail yard. We had a hazmat incident there about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we used a small drone, really helped us out, but it was one of our firefighters' personal drones. So it'd be a great tool to have.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can get it. I'd like to ask permission to apply for this.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 2021-09-13-06, I think it is, right?
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Holland, thank you, ma'am. Discussion? I want to give kudos to our fire department because I went out there that morning and you all had the situation totally in hand. And I'm sure the railroad folks were impressed. That could have gotten a little ugly, but you all had it under control.
Our staff members do a wonderful job. They're professionals of most highest caliber, so I have to give them all credit. They can handle almost any situation without me even being there sometimes. So. Actually, most of the time. But thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. There's no further comment. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Do we have a need for an executive session?
Concerning a personnel matter.
Doug, don't run off. Do I hear a motion to that effect?
I'll do it.
To not go into executive session?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel matter pursuant to KRS 61.8101F.
Thank you, Commissioner Hollins. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Terry. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Before we move out of here, under Commissioner comments, kudos to the staff about monthly water bills.
Yeah.
Somebody, my neighbor even noticed it on the back of the water bill this time, that we're gonna start having monthly water bills, so that was good. It's getting out there.
And where's the newsletter that's going to go in those monthly water bills?
Staff needs to fix a few fire hydrants first, Mayor.
Did we vote?
Motion, we move back into regular session.
So moved.
Thanks, Commissioner Terry. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Mr. Cottle. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. We're in regular session. Mr. Coffey?
Thank you, Mayor Commissioners. Staff is recommending the hiring of Jacob Rue to the position of certified police officer.
Do you hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
The dynamic duo of Terry and Cottle over here.
We don't need you, Mayor. You got it.
Any further questions, comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Aye. Anything else?
No, sir.
Do you hear a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Motion made,
Second.
second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Everyone have a good night.